I'm going to go on record because this is actually one of our first talking points. I'm starting to feel like movie theaters are not going to open.
No,
I'm starting to feel like they're not going to open like this year. I don't think it's going to
Broadway doesn't help.
Oh, yeah. So tell everybody what happened with that, Jakey.
Well, basically, they just announced that Broadway is not going to be opening up at all in 2020. At earliest, I think January 3rd is the date that I read. They basically said that most Broadway shows can't operate with a half full or half empty, depending on how you look at it, audience capacity.
Right.
So they cannot abide by the social distancing rules that movie theaters are working to initiate into it.
Interesting.
So for them, it's just not worth it. So they're basically going to have to wait for this to be over before they're going to, because they can't do social distancing because it's just too expensive.
Do you think also because they can only do essentially 1 or 2 shows a day, whereas a movie theater can do 5 shows of a thing?
Maybe so, but also keep in mind a Broadway ticket is significantly more expensive than a movie theater ticket. So,
sure.
While that one seat, might only get rented out once a day, it might end up making the same money that a movie theater seat does over the course of 5 or 6 showings.
Yeah, and I had a pretty, I probably already told this last week, but I had a pretty mind-changing perspective when I went to Ocean City last weekend with Lauren and her family. Mm-hmm. And while there, I felt safe in the hotels and the restaurants, as I mentioned, but the thing that scared me the most was the boardwalk. When I was just passing hundreds of people that weren't wearing masks, that didn't seem to care or know there was a pandemic going on. And that was the moment I really went to myself. I was like, the reason we're not going to be able to probably get back to some type of normalcy is because people aren't following the guidelines. And I think it's the same. I kind of equate it to when you're driving a car. I always feel safe when I'm driving, but I don't feel safe about the other drivers, right? And so that's kind of how I equated what happened to me on that boardwalk that night. I'm like, this is the reason why we're not going to be able to see some type of normalcy sometime soon. Because if people are just going to not obey that stuff, like I was in an elevator with a guy and he took his mask off and started talking to me. I'm like, these are the things that started to worry me, because I don't know that I can trust enough people to be able to go into a theater and not play around with that stuff and not remove their mask. Yeah. And when I I spoke to the Russo brothers for their pizza film school, and Joe and Anthony were even saying that they felt nervous about returning to theaters. I mean, these are 2 of the greatest and biggest filmmakers working today who obviously love the theatrical experience with Endgame and Infinity War, all their movies, and they seemed hestant. And I'm like, I really need to put myself in check, because there was a time period where they were holding on to that July 17th date for Tenet, and I don't know about you guys, but there was definitely a shift towards optimism for a while. I think we can all, if we go back on record in our show, you'll see that I think at one point we even said blanketly, is Tenet going to open? And we all said, I believe, yes, at some point.
Well, I want to point out, this is such a drastic shift for our show that all 3 of us comfortably are saying it doesn't feel like anything's going to open anytime soon.
And to Sean's point, it's important to note this, though. And the pandemic has been an interesting story because we all work in news, and pandemic took a back seat story-wise to everything that was happening in the news for the longest time. And pandemic was like in that top 10 trending topic for a long time. Mm-hmm. Other things happened in our country, rightfully so, that were meant to be talked about and in the news cycle and to get change. And the pandemic kind of became the back seat. Mm-hmm. So there was a kind of I don't know if we forgot about it, but we kind of just moved past it slightly. And there was a moment where like, oh, maybe we are going to somehow shift back in. And then once the news cycle shifted back to COVID-19, we started seeing these spikes, and I'm like, and then I see the boardwalk, and then I Joe and Anthony say what they say, and I'm like, I don't know that I can trust the other drivers on the road.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's the way I look at it. And like, now I am more on the side of like, yeah, Broadway closing, I don't think we're going to get new movies this year.
And did you guys see that video that Cinemark tweeted out of someone kind of walking with like a spray canister spraying down all the seats?
That. Yeah.
Didn't part of you make you wonder, like, why haven't you been doing that all along? Like, why did it take a worldwide pandemic for you to clean your seats?
That's why, like, when Kevin's saying he doesn't trust the other drivers, I don't necessarily trust the theaters. Like the quality of the theaters before all of this was not great.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
And When I was staying at this hotel I was staying at, like they, and that was interesting because they basically didn't allow housekeeping to come in the whole time I was there. So that actually felt safe. But then here's the weird thing. You're talking about trusting theaters. When I got into my hotel room, as I mentioned, they had a remote that said, "Oh, your remote's been cleaned. No one's using it." Okay, the sticker's there. How do I know that's true?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, there have been multiple stories done about movie theaters over the years and how dirty like a cup holder is in a movie theater, or an armrest, or under the seat.
Sure.
So I've
seen those on airplanes, like the tray. Yeah. You can't you shouldn't take the tray down and touch it, because if you go over it, it's horrifying.
And also the attitude about oh, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, the attitude about masks. I was also on a vacation that the weekend Kevin was, and my girlfriend and I were genuinely the only people casually walking around with masks on, and we were given looks like we were freaks, like we were monsters, like we were the weirdos in the group, like we like this mentality of.
That's and we would, I felt.
We'd overhear people say like, "Oh, I dare someone to say something to me about wearing a mask," and it's just like. Yeah, so of course we're swinging back the opposite direction. The fact that like two people who are genuinely trying to like take some small part in doing the right thing are being presented as the freaks and the weirdos, like absolutely, like that sort of attitude is making me have doubt about movie theaters.
That's the vibe that I got as well, that they're like, it was like, remember when AMC released their statement about July 15th opening and they didn't require the masks? And there was a little bit of a red line there, or a line there that it was basically if the area you were in required a mask, you would still have to wear it. But basically AMC changed their tone,
because they got changed that real fast
overnight.
But interestingly enough, in AMC's statement, and then we'll move on, is that they said it was a political element, right, not to wear a mask. And that's what I'm seeing in the news now. I don't know if you saw the video yesterday of there was a woman in a grocery store who refused to, I think it was a Trader Joe's, and she refused to wear a mask, and she got screamed at by the employees. And I don't know the full story, so I don't want to give too much perspective. Not just screamed at,
but the thing that struck me about that video was her claiming that her doctor said that she has a breathing condition and she's not allowed to wear a mask. Which my first thought was, if you have a breathing condition, your doctor would probably tell you not to go to a grocery store with a bunch of people. He wouldn't say go to a grocery store without a... That's the last thing a doctor would tell you.
Right.
But a lot of those arguments I'm seeing from people, and I think you would see this in movie theaters as well. Imagine that scenario in a movie theater. That would probably happen.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd be next to John Smith, and he would take his mask off, and you'd be like, "Sir, can you please put your mask back on?"
And honestly, like when I'm watching Tenet for the first time, I don't want to have to worry about that. When I'm watching Tenet, I want to enjoy it. I don't want to worry about when I see someone cough, or I don't want to like look over there and be like, "That dude took his mask off." Oh, crap.
That's a great point.
I just want to be like, I would rather wait. Honestly, don't freak out. I'd rather wait a year and watch Tenet, genuinely enjoy it without a distraction, than watch it in a month and have like little things bug me the whole time.
And Jake, you and I not joked about this, but we said this when we did a little thing we did for Fox the other day about Fast and Furious 9. Universal seemed to know what the heck was going on.
They kind of nailed it.
They just
by
nailed
pushing
that
it back
movie
a year
back.
They're now looking like the smart ones in the room.
I will never. The perfect image for this entire analogy is Amy Adams in the Arrival suit holding the board up, and someone just wrote Tenet on it. Like, it's just there's so much uncertainty, and that's probably the only way I would feel safe. But now, that being said, there's all these dates. They're all like new dates, and the new dates don't really mean much to me because it's like, okay, so Tenet.
Every movie is the New Mutants now.
Yeah, those dates mean nothing. It's just a 2-week barrier. That's all
Tenet
it is.
goes from July 30th to August 12th. Bill and Ted Face the Music also gets pushed back 2 weeks. Mulan now claims that they're going to be August 21st. The Michael B. Jordan Without Remorse is going all the way to 2021. But the question is always like, how different are things going to be in 2 more weeks? Then we all of a sudden think that it's going to be okay.
It's just a placeholder.
They're Band-Aids. They're just Band-Aids placed on it in case things start to turn back around. But I'm with
like
you guys
a plane
in the
delay.
fact that it's exactly what it feels. And you know how frustrating plane delays are when you're sitting there and
2 hours at a time.
Except there's never a reason for those.
When you know the storm over you is going nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so blanketly, as we move on, no new movie. As we sit right here, right now, just as for a timestamp and a time capsule, if it's okay if we're wrong or right, any new movies open up this year?
I mean, I'm going to keep an optimistic
in
yes.
theaters.
I'll keep an optimistic yes.
I want to say yes, too. I want to say yes, too.
I'm saying it's going to be
when?
November, December.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like November, December. It feels like everything would really have to not only take a curve back down to acceptable levels, but stay there for a little bit. And right now, everything's going up, and that's because
we've proven that we can get the curve down. What we haven't proven is we can get the curve down and keep it there, because everyone gets so excited that they just take it as like, okay, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
The people Jake and I saw on our vacations, that gives me hesitation.
Separate vacations. We didn't go on vacation together. I wasn't invited. I wasn't invited.
But that gave me hesitation.
I was just going to say, I'm really offended that I didn't get invited on this ReelBlend trip.
Gabe said that we should have invited you, but I don't know.
All right, well, let's talk about...
We did a meetup.
Oh,
yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, bring a cardboard me around with you. Let people pose with it.